Sometime. Anybody wants to go to the toilet, go ahead now. All right, let him have it.
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head?
Hello, welcome to the 7th episode of Hero Talk. My name is Christopher Arangio. I'm your host. Today's interview is with the lead actor of Healing Heroes, Mark Epperson. He played the maniacal Dr. Henry Connors in the Proof of Concept film. Mark is an actor based in Manhattan, New Jersey, who's been acting for he just started acting 6 years ago, which really is crazy if you think about it or if you've ever seen his work. He's done theater, on cruises, on stage. He's done a handful of short films. We also discussed how the process of becoming Dr. Connors came about, so I hope you guys enjoy. I've actually been really looking forward to this interview in particular because Mark was so wonderful to work with. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. Oh, and also, if you have not yet followed Healing Heroes on Instagram or Twitter yet, yeah, you should go do that. It's Healing Heroes _ for both Twitter and Instagram. Alright, so hello guys. I'm with lead actor of Healing Heroes, Mark Epperson. How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much, Chris.
We are in, is this in a theater?
It's a studio. This is the Baryshnikov Center,
nice.
West 37th, where I'm working on a show right now.
Yeah, tell us about your show.
Well, I'm in Elf, the musical, and we're preparing for the national tour, and be heading out actually in just a few days, and throughout the holiday season. Right. So, yeah, coming to a city perhaps near you.
In the West Coast,
if you're
yeah.
West Coast. Yeah, I'm looking for housing, by the way, if you're in Costa Mesa.
Where's is that New Mexico?
It's south of Los Angeles. So
South of Los
if there's anyone listening who has a spare room somewhere in Irvine or Newport Beach, that would be great.
Have you had to look for places to stay throughout? Or?
No. It's sometimes nice to get away from the hotels, and if there's a way to have a more of a home experience, it helps with the routine and stuff like that.
Probably relaxes
That's all.
you a little bit more.
Yeah, but not a big deal. They do provide a hotel that we then have to pay for out of a per diem.
Okay.
But we can save that per diem. So
that's not bad.
if I can do it, great. If not,
Yeah.
I'm not like on the street. So
Yeah, well, it's California, so
right.
it'd be nice. It's probably nice weather. But so you're how long is that tour for? Is it?
Well, it's only 2
Christmas?
months, yeah, because it runs through the holiday season up until New Year's Day. By then, people are kind of done with elves and tinsel. So
You're spending Christmas on the road?
I'll be in Costa Mesa. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. For those who are thinking of housing me, that is December 19th through the January 1st.
Through January 1st, yeah. What's the city you're looking forward to most of this?
Well, what's fun is I do have friends in a lot of the places that we're going, or 18 cities. And so getting to see people from College Station, Texas to Tulsa, Oklahoma, even Milwaukee. So I'm actually looking forward to a bunch of the cities because we'll get to, at least for my sake, I'll get to see people that I know. But I'm really enjoying the show. So I'm looking forward to seeing how different audiences in different parts of the country respond.
Yeah.
Because there are different folks in different areas, and I think that'll be kind of fun. I'm playing Walter Hobbs, who is the father of Buddy the Elf.
Nice.
And so I'm the guy that finds out he's got a son who was raised by elves. It's played by James Caan in the movie.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, he was a funny character.
Yeah.
Wakanda just told me, actually, I met with her this morning, and she said that you actually wrapped up a short film, or a short film that you were released. She
Yeah.
shared it, and I unfortunately didn't get a chance to see it, because I thought it was just like a still
Oh,
photo
yeah.
of the film. I didn't know that the link was there. But she said that you played a really good character, and that was fun. So
Interesting. Yeah, thank you. Shot that back in December, past December.
Nice.
and it was part of a project that is now in some festivals and all. So again, playing a dad, and this dad is not a great guy. He's having an affair, but he happens to be having that affair with his sister-in-law, which is it's like.
That's the way Wakande said it. Is like, yeah, I think Mark is having an affair with, like, it confused me. It said Mark is having an affair with, like, the sisters, and I thought you meant like maybe like a younger girl. I was like, wait, what?
No.
His wife's sister.
His wife, yeah.
Sister-in-law. She's like, oh yeah, my bad. But no, that seemed pretty interesting. So.
Well, it's been fun. I mean, the film work that we've done, and anytime I get to work on film, is a joy. I love the stage. I also like film because it's a different medium for storytelling, and different way of preparing, a different process of how you're working on that story. You could be shooting a piece of the story that's at the end before you ever get to the beginning, and
that's probably really exciting as an actor.
Yeah, it's fun.
Something more emotional towards the end, and like.
Well, and a director will sometimes have a reason for shooting one scene out of order. Because of something they're trying to achieve. Some will shoot in a chronological order, but it really depends. And the good directors have thought through why the order is what it is. And it might just be economic. There are realities that require, we're going to have to shoot it in this order for a particular reason. But sometimes they actually have a philosophical reason that has to do with how characters are developing. And if you can catch them in a moment when they might not know each other as well, that might work for something later in the story.
That makes sense.
So it's little things like that are kind of fun.
I've always heard that like maybe your first day is like your not easy day, but it's like your less emotional day, like because at first, but when you think of Hollywood or even like things that aren't like independent level, like you who knows how long you have the time to do the table read. Healing Heroes, for all four of us, we only had one day. But like Alyssa mentioned in her podcast, like your chemistry with Alyssa right away was like, it's like you guys knew each other from like the past. And even someone asked her, like, hey, you guys know each other? And like, no, this is the first time we're meeting. So it was like, it was like instant, like you have like instant connections. Even like when I've acted in a few little things, nothing minor, and I met like professional actors. There's certain things like if you have a scene together with someone, maybe you're able to like develop the chemistry.
Yeah, and everyone's different on that. Some folks are a little more hesitant in how they reveal themselves, and that's fine. Miss Clee was she's so out there in that fun, energetic, I want to know you kind of way. So she makes it easy to feel chemistry.
Yeah, she has a lot. She has an insane amount of energy. Like, you just feel it right away.
Well, and 80% of it's in that smile of hers. I mean, my gosh. So I mean, it starts right off that you just feel comfortable around her. But that's true of everyone that you brought together for this thing. We all just had a nice, easy gel, which is it's a dream.
And I don't say this often about projects I work on, but this one particularly, like, it was really nice that like there was not a lot of drama. There was like everyone kind of came and did their job, like, and that's it. And it was just really good. I think like the pre-production of it with like the screenwriting and not the screenwriting, the questions you asked or other actors asked about the character was able to help me like expand my mind with like the universe it was in. So I guess a question I have for you is like, what's a challenge you faced like in the process of Dr. Connors or tapping into that type of character? Because everyone knows the type of character you are. Like everyone knows like, what he is or what he could be. So.
Yeah, the way you shot that pilot, that concept was, you're left with a question about Dr. Connors, and enough of a question to go, okay, something's a little off. Either something's off with him mentally, or he has an agenda that is a little hidden.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of him in that way, and that might be kind of the challenge, is that as we started from the original table read to even getting to the concept shoot, he had developed a lot as a character who had a lot more hidden than when we originally talked about it, which was fun because I enjoy any kind of a story that's going to look at the human condition, which most stories do in some way. And Dr. Connors allows an actor like me to think about that dark part that to him isn't necessarily dark. He knows he needs to keep it hidden because in his mind people don't understand how he is perhaps really going to make a better world.
Yeah.
But that's where a lot of dark has come from in the world, is people assuming they've got a better way to do things, and that gives them the right to clandestinely set about doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you have like a certain motive.
It's another thing when someone says, I've got an idea, and they begin to share it and they try to draw people into it. And I mean, that's more how American politics work. You know, we elect people who tell us what they're going to do, and we're like, I like that, or we don't like that. But Dr. Connors is playing it close to the vest because he's not sure who would come along, but he also thinks even if they didn't come along, it's because they wouldn't understand.
Yeah, and we're at the part of the story where you're trying to figure out who would join you and who is going to be in your way.
Which makes the doctor's office kind of fun because even in the process of saying things that does help, I'm doing air quotes, help, help his clients, he is really manipulating those conversations to find out where these people are, who can be manipulated, and who might have that same kind of darkness to join him on a bit of a larger quest.
And you did that so well, like you, because every now and then, like if I'll send a project to someone if they want to see it, and I try to not really like watch my own work because it's like, I don't want to be too critical of like what's there, but at the same time, like you go and you watch and I'm like, wow, like obviously I know the script because I wrote it and I did so many drafts, but it's like what I put on paper, it's like that's the emotion you were able to give. Or like a lot of people watched it and they said a handful of things. The first thing they said is like, is he evil? Like, what the fuck's his deal? Like, what's wrong with him? They were like, wow, someone mentioned like you had like the quote unquote Jeffrey Dahmer appeal.
Oh, right.
Because everyone's like, oh, you're a good looking guy, but you're like, you're very just like, there's just like evil. Like my buddy Jason who was on set, he's like, Mark, like there's just, you could tell in the character, there's just evil in him. Like you're able probably to portray it. So I was like, oh, that's good that it all came out, like, and it came out through the editing and the acting. And, but everyone was like curious as to like what your relationship was with everyone, or like that ending scene is like, man, everything he was saying to Ganja Girl and Captain Cornelius, like, was he trying to help him or harm them? I think you were able to pull that off. Facial expressions, tone, you just everything you did and said, and I think it helped out too. Like the reason I picked Alyssa for Sheila, or now Andy, is because, there's more depth to that character. There's a whole story with that character. Her and I met in Cafe Bene, like in Midtown, and we sat for like 2 hours and like just came up with a backstory because your two characters are very deep. I'm not saying Captain Cornelius or Ganja Girl isn't. Like Ganja Girl's like a superhero who's starting out, and then obviously Captain Cornelius is an old friend of yours. Like you guys have your own separate story, but you and Alyssa I have a lot of layers that are able to help out the story. So I
which is fun.
Yeah. Like you're able to add to it. And one thing I really like enjoyed about working with you was you really like, if you had a question, you asked it. If we had promos, you were like, you did them. Like you just were just always there on board, and that was just a lot of fun for it. What was like I'll keep it positive. What's one positive thing you took away from this project, from an actor standpoint, from like a connection standpoint, like, did it help you grow? Did it like, because I'm sure like when you do a project, every project you do helps you grow, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and if you don't, we filmed this last December, so you were doing this in that short film you mentioned. So I'm sure both films like that helped you grow. So what'd you take away from this?
Well, it's a great question. In some ways, it's hard to tell what you take away directly, sometimes for some time, where you think back, because you're in a new project, you're like, this is kind of like that, or because it can be everything from character development, like how do I develop an evil person, or a person who's capable of
you're
evil.
Like the nicest guy. So
well,
it's like, I'm just saying, like, I'm sure you're able to tap.
Well, I
into
guess that's what I mean about the human condition. Part of the human condition is the more we get to know ourselves, the more aware of how capable we are of going off. And if there's anything about the human journey, it is being honest with ourselves about our dark stuff, and that we all have some dark.
Yeah.
And part of the actor's job is to be aware of it, to access it depending on the character, and to access the good too.
Oh,
I mean, we are an interesting mix of motives, emotions, desires, needs, all that stuff, just as humans. So the actor is trying to figure out if it's like a big equalizer, amplifier, stereo equalizer. It's like, all right, I need a little more of this frequency, a little less of this frequency, and I'm going to pump the mid-range for this. And depending on whether you're happy, joy character, then you're going to turn way down on the evil and up on the happy. But I think that's at least how I think about it. Like, what is the equalizer that I'm working with? And every actor, as they grow from character development on one project or another, they might become aware of a bit more of those frequencies for themselves, and then can think, all right, I think Dr. Connors has a fair bit of this frequency and a fair bit of that one. It can be levels of intelligence, how you display some of that, levels of anger, levels of calm, levels of cool, calculation, that kind of thing that can come across either way. Either, wow, he's really smart and he's being wise about this, or whoa, he is calculating.
He's a step.
He's a few steps ahead, and I'm a little nervous about that. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of how I think about it, and what comes out of a short like Healing Heroes is trying to access more of that dark, or be aware of it. Like, I'm aware of my dark side. It's there. It's real. Like,
were you aware
most
of it like 20 years ago though?
Not nearly as I am now.
Okay. Is that like, are you talking about dark side like in general, or like with act? Like,
I'm talking about the Force.
Luke,
I am your father. No, say the question again.
No, it was like, were you able to like? I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, are you afraid of ever tapping into it so dark, like when you act? Like, I don't want to compare it to like an Heath Ledger type thing.
Yeah,
but
well, and I don't think of myself quite on that level. I've only really been acting for about 6 years, so
you're a working actor.
I'm a working actor
I know
now.
I said that earlier before we were rolling, but everyone's like, so what is? Every time they ask me, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I have a job here, and I do film, and I do this and that. You're always acting. Like, that's.
Well, I'm trying to stay
that's
busy.
good. That's great though.
But I guess what I mean is, it could also just be, I'm not a method actor. So when I think about a character, I really am thinking, how do I act these things? I don't necessarily try to climb into the mindset and act from within it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
So for me,
so
it's
like on
more.
Set you were like Mark playing the character.
Well, and you
Dr.
probably like there are probably moments where I was cutting up a bit too much right up before you say, okay, we're rolling, and I'm like, okay.
No, but that's how most things. Yeah, you want to kind of probably keep it light because your character was like.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing is. Now, I don't want to take anything away from actors whose process involves climbing into a character.
No, you're not.
that far from me. My process is
Yeah, you're talking about your process.
I kind of stay out here.
Yeah.
I look at my frequencies and figure out, try to make a choice as to what they should be for the scene I'm about to do.
Nice.
Hopefully in rehearsal you say, let's adjust that frequency, or
Yeah.
and you do. You'd say, hey, let's try this, or that was a little too far. That
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but you
And
always
I'm-
ask me after every time we read the scene or that you were the first one to ask, like, all right, how did I do? What needs to be changed? Like, you were very aware of like what could be. I'm not saying you probably wanted my like recognition of it. You were just making sure. Do I have any notes? If I do, can I tell them to you now? You think
Yeah.
about it before we like read it again.
Well, but again, that probably comes from being, at least to me, feeling like a bit of a new actor.
Okay.
Where, I mean, I'm sure part of my motivation is affirm me.
Yeah.
That's part of it. The other part is genuinely being open to the feedback, and communicating to you. I'm open to whatever you want to tell me. I won't take it weird.
Yeah.
And probably as we would continue working on this project,
Yeah.
I would ask the question less, assuming you know that you can tell me,
Yeah.
and we'd figure out how we work together and
Yeah,
all that
because
kind
we
of
only
stuff.
really got to work with each other for like 4 or 5 months. Like,
Yeah,
like this time last year, we were doing auditions,
that's right.
and when you work more and more with people, you're able to kind of like, there's like just like that unwritten like chemistry, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
You know, like you probably won't ask as many questions, or I won't have to tell you. This
You
because
know,
you'll
it's like
understand it.
when we get into our 5th season
Yeah.
of Healing Heroes, we'll have a pretty
On
good sense
Netflix,
of how we operate, what we need, and you'll have my trailer all set up the way I like
my
it.
My
you
dad
know.
wants the trailer too, man. I gotta get on these trailers.
Yeah,
for
well,
you
you'll
guys.
keep Velveeta and Doritos available, and I'll be able to nourish myself.
So speaking of Doritos, you and Wakanda came up with a funny little scene. The first day of shooting, I picked you guys up at 7 a.m.
Yeah, we were
And
working.
you
We rode the
guys-
train
both
out.
You guys were like, yeah. So tell us about that.
Well, we were riding the train out together, and we were looking at the scene that we were going to be shooting, and it just seemed like if she is a ganja girl and she's high, she's going to get the munchies, and that she'd get distracted somewhere in the middle of the scene because she needed some food.
Yeah.
And so we just figured there'd be a moment where she might just kind of blank out, and I'd try and get her attention. It's like, you got any Doritos around? Or I think she came up with Doritos, and I just said munchies or whatever, but she was like, got something specific. So yeah, that's where that
Actually,
came
I'm
from.
sorry, and you were saying like that was that was so funny. That was
It
a
was
fucking
fun.
one. So who was or what was your favorite part about working with Ryan, Wakande, and Alyssa?
Well, Brian is naturally a comedian. I mean, he has great timing. So when he comes in, and I mean, he's comedic in his abilities and his person, and then the outfit that you put him in was
Thanks to Mariah,
was
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful costume that he was able to work with and make even funnier.
Yeah.
He had the beard with this mask, and it was sort of like
Yeah, 'cause
not
he's
quite.
not scruffy at all anymore.
Yeah,
So,
but he played the 20 years past his prime superhero, and still wearing his outfit.
Makeshift outfit,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, and it's funny. It reminded me of Galaxy Quest
Yeah.
when Alan Rickman is walking around wearing his headgear, you know, as an
Yeah.
actor just at home.
I know, that
so,
was funny.
but so it was just kind of like that. So Ryan was great. He was on point. He was always funny. There were times I had to like just stay focused.
yeah.
Where are my dials on my
Yeah.
little frequency chart, and not watch him too much because he was just funny. He's a
Yeah.
good actor and great at
You
comedy.
guys had a really good chemistry in the sense of like
That was
looking,
fun.
looking back at it and seeing like I think he made the observation, and I didn't think about it, but he made the observation that you were wearing purple
Yeah,
and gold.
I was about to say,
And he was
and
wearing
he
purple
threw
and
that
gold, and he
into
threw
the line,
that in
like,
there right
oh,
there.
you're wearing my colors, you know?
And I could tell, like in the take, like the first or second take, that caught you off guard. And
Yeah,
that
it did.
laugh was like genuine.
Yeah.
Other times you
No,
kind
it
of
was
smirked.
it
but-
was funny.
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. And you were the only actor who got to act with every actor in there. So you got to act with Wakande and.
Yeah, it was a treat. And Wakande, again, we got to ride the train out in our that morning to prepare, and she's funny. She's delightful, and I mean, and who wouldn't want to be seen with her? I felt like king of the train. I hear, yeah, she's with me. That's right. And we just had a great time, but also focused on what she was doing, had ideas, and it was fun to bounce those ideas off of each other. So we had a great time.
Like we cut and in between takes, you know, I was always running around and doing this, but I swear, like I'd look over a few times and you guys were like hovering.
Yeah, we
like,
were trying to
like
powwow.
ear to ear kind of, or like, you know, mouth to ear, like kind of like whispering, like, what can we do to work better? Like it wasn't like you weren't yelling across the way. You were kind of trying to figure it out on your own.
Well, one thing about most film sets, and this one included, is you have such a truncated time for rehearsal and shooting that sometimes an idea will hit you in the middle of a shot. If you get another chance to shoot it, you're like, hey, what if we try this? And most of the time we'd run that by you. Sometimes there's like, it's just enough of a twist that it's not like changing anything, and we could throw that out
there.
There
might have been sometimes where honestly I didn't even notice.
Right.
It might have been like that minute or that tiny, but like it was still like good for you guys. But I'm a big firm believer, like if anything I direct, like, you know, if I'm the director, if I'm an AD, or if I'm just a writer, and like someone else is directing, I'm not like really hell bent on this rule, but I like to at least do at least 4 takes. Yeah. You know, or 3 at least, but like 2 or like, you know, do it. I'm not really like I don't think this is the right term to use, but I'm not really like a Nazi to the script. Like I don't need to like do like, you need to follow this right now. I'm cool with like if actors miss a line, do this, do that, but the 3rd take is like free range. And that kind of, we didn't get to put this in the movie, but it was the reaction when Ryan threw out the hot dog. Each take, it was just an improv thing, so that was pretty funny as well. Right. But no, I could definitely tell. And then like with Alyssa, like that last scene, like, you know, it was so like, I felt bad because I made her come all the way out there for like a short day when you guys were really
that was really fun. I mean, she's delightful, and she's a really good actor because, well, for lots of reasons, but what was fun for the scene where she comes in to confront me about the medication that I prescribed, it's an interesting moment because for her, she's being strong enough to talk to her boss. It also indicates that there is a history there. We don't know exactly what it is or how long they've worked together exactly, all that stuff. But
she's coming off to bring that issue
but
up to you.
Yeah, it's there, and she does it so well. And when I kind of bark at her, you know, mind your own business kind of thing, she sort of turns, but you could tell she's not entirely happy about it. Even when she sits back down at the desk and does it, she's not happy. She's still thinking about this. So there's clearly more conversation either that happened a little bit after Captain Cornelius left, or there will be or something. And I think that's fun because you see it in what she's doing and see it in her face. So it's a treat for me to work with actors like that. I had the best days because I got to work with all of them.
So that was really, really awesome. Was there any did you have any personal inspiration, like, for the project? Did you try, and I know we talked about like how you delve into characters, but did you kind of mirror the Doctor after anybody, any character you played in the past, or any
No, because I haven't played any of those. I haven't played a character like that. Okay. If anything, it was the genre of the James Bond villain, where, at least in some of the James Bond films, it is a successful, very organized, clearly educated, intelligent person with an agenda that they seem to think will be the best thing for the world, and it's up to them to carry it out. Sometimes there's sinister, and it's clear James Bond just is up against a sinister, evil person. I enjoyed a bit more of the, perhaps in Moonraker, which, again, some of these films are funny to think about now, but in terms of the genre of the more sophisticated villain, that provided that sense of security in themselves, because those guys, they were fine with themselves and what they were doing. They weren't second guessing themselves, and I don't think Dr. Connors is second guessing what he's doing. He has a clear thing in mind that we're not going into.
So we're not going to say. Yeah.
But it's that genre, I guess is the way I'm saying it. They didn't second guess themselves either. They weren't on the fence about it.
Yeah.
So that was sort of a kind of character that I was thinking about. And my suspicion is, as we get more plot line and so on going forward, that I would go back to that and begin to pick out maybe certain characteristics. But a lot of it's just trying to find my own dark spot and work with it.
About you in general, I think like you could probably pull off humor. Well, I saw your B&H commercial. I thought that was funny. Like, but I'm just saying, like, I just think like if you have like an element of like comedy to any of the four characters, including Weaker Man too, I think you could pull it off. Like, I think like just
I'd like to.
Say,
I like comedy.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the funny. Like, I don't think I'm like Ryan. I don't have quick one-liners. Sometimes maybe I do, but I'm awkward when I deliver them.
But it's also your expressions. Like the one we filmed in Riverside Park, you, Alyssa, and John Carlo, like your facial expressions just get me every time. And it's because I like that kind of stuff. I like more expressive. Like everyone always mocks me for my facial expressions. I don't even know if I do them. Like if I'm in an awkward scenario, if I see something that's weird, like people laugh at it, but I don't even notice it. So maybe that's something like for you. Maybe you don't notice it, but it plays
that could be
really well on camera. Then.
Yeah.
All right. So I think I might have done this with the Conde, but I just kind of want to ask like some things, like as if you were Dr. Connors. Like,
okay.
Who's Dr. Connors' favorite superhero?
Within the world that you've created, or
it could be within the world you've created, or even like a fictitious one. Because we make light of it that like Batman's fake in this universe,
Oh, that's right.
So,
yeah. Well, part of me wants to say himself because he might actually have some abilities
some powers,
that he thinks pretty highly of. But outside that, he might be into someone like Magneto, from X-Men, just because he's the calculating. He thinks he has a better way for the world.
Yeah.
And
that's actually a really good answer. Because he does.
Yeah, but he's not going about it the right way from the standpoint of us. So he might actually respect Magneto for what he's trying to do.
I guess I'll just ask one more.
I mean, I do. I respect Magneto.
Where does Dr. Connors go on vacation when he's not in the office?
Oh, he has an island that he likes to visit. And it's just himself, and of course there's a mountain that kind of opens up so that his helicopter can land in it.
Oh, God. Yeah. That's James Bondish.
I know.
That's so James Bondish. There you go.
I just want us to have a set like that I
would
can
be
play on.
amazing.
I want to fly in a helicopter into a volcano that's actually a secret hangar.
Secret lair. When I was younger, I watched a lot of Austin Powers movies,
Right.
and then obviously I found out that they were
spoofs
off
of Bond, right?
Of Bond, and even Daniel Craig is like, those Austin Powers movies are fucking terrible.
But they're supposed to be.
But that's another thing too. I saw Walk Hard before Walk the Line. It was parodying, like it was making fun of Johnny Cash.
Okay.
And Walk Hard just like ruined Walk the Line for me, but Walk the Line is still one of the greatest films.
Yeah.
Really quickly before we go, who were some of your inspirations? Because I didn't know you were only acting for 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
like,
we haven't really talked about it.
No, not really. Because maybe I just assume everyone's been doing it as much as I've been doing it 5-6 years, but I assume if you're an actor, like you've probably been doing it like you've always enjoyed it. Maybe you did high school, college, and then you've kind of always done it. Because I've met a different ton of actors. So like, what like got you into acting?
Okay, you ready for your mind to be blown?
Yes.
Because honestly, we haven't talked about my previous life. From right after college up until I turned 40, I was a minister in a church in Colorado.
Oh wow!
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, no, very few do. And
Thank you for sharing.
yeah, well, I don't mind. It was, I think, part of. I'll say. It would be too strong to say I had a midlife crisis. That's too strong. But I did have a sense that I needed to make a change, and it was kind of clear that I needed to change. I'd been a singer in some of the bars in Denver, and I sang at the church and stuff like that.
You told me also when you auditioned, you were on cruises.
Yeah, I've done a few contracts with Royal Caribbean, did Chicago the musical and Mamma Mia, and which was a lot of fun. But I didn't want to regret never trying musical theater primarily. When I got here and realized there's a lot of acting to do, both in theater, musical theater, film, TV, any of it. And I found myself very interested in telling stories, which is part of what I did as a pastor. I mean, you're telling a story about this person from 2,000 years ago, and that's kind of the story within the church. And church is, and I mean this in the highest respect, it's theater. It is a high form of theater. There are words to learn. There's blocking, moving around the chancel of a church. You deliver your prepared words with the hope of causing people to think about something, which is what you do with a stage production, with a film production. You want people to think about something. So when I talk about the human condition, I'm talking about it. Well, I guess what I'm saying is I come into it now as an actor from a theologically informed place about what humans are dealing with and brokenness. And we all kind of, it really doesn't matter what worldview you have, there's a sense that something isn't right. And most worldviews have some sort of a corrective. Obviously within Christianity, it is the person of Jesus. In Islam, you have the 5 pillars, and following those 5 pillars. If it's Buddhism, it's the Eightfold Path. And so almost any worldview will have some kind of a corrective. So when you come to a film story or a stage story, there is a sense that something's wrong, and in this case it's Dr. Connors. And I imagine, although we haven't really talked about what it will be, there will be a corrective. And so there will be a worldview that this film kind of emerges in. And a lot of stories have their own worldviews, like Star Wars and so on. I mean, it takes from a few different positions. So as someone who is very interested in theology and philosophy, I actually enjoy all of these stories because there's a lot to think about. So I hope I didn't say too much, but
no,
that's...
you didn't. You were right, you did blow my mind.
That's what
I'm just sitting
was
here
doing.
Like wide-eyed. I wasn't expecting that.
All right.
But that's a very good, like...
Maybe I should have said, yeah, I was a stripper. And then I got into acting. And I'd been on stage before, but, it's different.
So you're able to really dive into character behavior then, from that standpoint, because you were around it, because you were around a lot of it, right?
Around what? What do you mean?
Well, I guess you were around, I was trying to not say something because I don't want to offend anybody, but because you mentioned about how everyone's broke, and I completely get that. So you're able to probably
Well, I'm aware of my... as a pastor, you want to. I think a good pastor knows that they're broken too, and I'm aware of my own brokenness. And that, I hope that's not a cliche term. I don't really mean it to be, but it's for ease of anything else. It kind of explains what we sort of are aware of, that sometimes our needs get in the way of our own development, our wants, our desires. They become so front and center for us that we can get off track. And that is what's interesting about most characters of any show. And Dr. Connors is a little off because he has some needs, desires, wants, and so on that are, I think, about to mess up some relationships.
Oh, yeah.
And we could all kind of relate to that.
Definitely.
He's a bit of an extreme example. But what's fun about characters like this is when you're watching, you think about Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And what Bryan Cranston did with that character, and the writers too.
Yeah,
That what they did with that was create a guy like, wow, I could imagine a situation where I might go that way, maybe not quite that far, but I could find myself in trouble, and good stories do that. So you identify, you begin to wonder, wow, what would it take? How far would I have to be pushed to respond with all the darkness that I have? And hopefully we don't experience that. But we know people where, for whatever reason, they did get pushed that far, and or they're dealing with it now, and we're all kind of dealing with it in some way. So I don't want to ramble too much about all that, but that's what I was doing before.
That's
and
really, but that's a really good. I always like hearing people's stories about how they got to where they were. But that's a really good, interesting, I guess, take on the comparison of church and act. I've never heard anyone say it's like a state. I'm not a religious person, so and I'm not going to get offended. But from someone who's done both, you're able to really.
Well, I too don't want to offend anyone by saying that the church has a theatrical element to it.
Because you're coming from a standpoint of like you were there for how many years?
About 15, yeah. And the fun part for me is I worked with college students. So I was with young, energetic, interesting, curious people who are in the middle of trying to figure their life out, but asking great questions. Yeah. And it required that I have answers that weren't pat. And even still, I want to be able to articulate an answer that makes sense. And if it doesn't, then let's try something else. But I'm still very interested in theology, philosophy. But now it's from the standpoint that it undergirds all of our storytelling, even when people don't know that it does. There is a philosophy that undergirds Christopher, and however aware of it you are, it doesn't really matter. It will inform how you write, and so you've brought these interesting characters, and I think that's fun, and I like analyzing that.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate it. So really quickly, besides you're going on tour for Elf. Mm-hmm. Besides that, have you been working on anything else? Or?
Well, I did a couple shows over the summer. In Pennsylvania, I did Footloose and a new musical that was on Broadway last year and now is starting in some of the regional theaters called It Should Have Been You, which is a very funny, fun story of a wedding. So it's got a lot of family dynamics. It's got a Jewish family and a WASP family and the conflicts that come there, and just anytime two very different family systems come together, they're going to brush up against each other and there'll be some friction. So it has a lot of great humor, fantastic music from Barbara and Selmy, and it was just a delightful show. And then I spent some time in Colorado gearing up for, which is where my home is, and then gearing up for Elf.
Awesome.
Got some potential projects in the works, but don't know much of what they will be in the new year. Welcome to find me on Twitter. I don't tweet a lot, but I'm there. At the Mark Epperson.
At the Mark Epperson. Okay. Awesome. And I'm probably going to tag you on Instagram for this post too.
Sure, so. That's cool.
All right, Mark, I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot,
Chris.
Have a good night. All right.